After the missed potential of Chapter 5 Season 2, everybody was prepared for the summer, and the season that followed suit was Chapter 5 Season 3. I mean, obviously, if you can count, I think most people can count, and they'd understand that 3 comes after 2. And let's just say that this season left the community divided, worse than any presidential debate ever has. This season was very controversial, though I personally loved Rec. I think that Season 3 of Chapter 5 is by far the best season in the chapter. So I think it's been long enough since the season has passed. I want to give a different perspective to Rec that most people probably haven't thought about. And I want to give it a chance to be seen as Chapter 5's best season. So, without further ado, why don't we continue our retrospective on Chapter 5 and dive straight into Fortnite's most divisive season, Rec. And just like before, we're going to be starting with... The changes to the map were pretty damn good this season, starting with the Wastelanders Desert, which was our only new biome this time. While that may sound like a bad thing, keep in mind that this desert did take over the entire bottom half of the map, compared to Olympus and the Underworld, which only took over small sections of the corners. And the desert popped. It looked beautiful, with these very deep and saturated oranges, especially when mixed with the rich blues of the water found by the oases. Oasis? Oasi? I don't fucking know, whatever the plural for oasis is, because they were scattered all across the biome and really helped to make this biome pop. This season really showed that Epic was beginning to step away from the art direction they were going for with Chapter 5's launch, which, thank fucking God! Oh my lord! The Underworld was just the start. This
is beautiful.
We have finally escaped it. Chapter 4, here I come! I swear to God, if Chapter 6 is mundane and boring, I think I'm gonna jump off a cliff. Though this season added 3 new POIs and absolutely decimated Snooty Steps, flooding it with sand and leaving the place in ruin. I don't have much else to say about it besides that they got rid of the Peter statue, which honestly is worse than death. God, just take me now. I just figured I should mention it before jumping into the new POIs that I'm not as happy with. Though, might as well lead with my favorite, Red Line Rig. This place is pretty cool. It's got a very vertical design, allowing you to land at different layers and not get screwed. Unlike other locations which...
Say the line, Bart!
Due to the worst design that some Chapter 5 locations lean towards, overall, it's just not as fun when you land at a place like Grand Glacier, Fencing Fields, Rebels Roost.
Yeah!
Red Line Rig is better. Overall, a great POI that I'm happy to drop at whenever I have to. You know, if it's a hot drop, I don't care. I'll go there fucking in 2 seconds, bro. I love it. It's great. And even in Season 4, I still drop there sometimes, even when there was the cooler and Marvel POIs, which, that's a topic for a next video. But anyways, I should mention that this place is pretty low on loot, especially since it's all kind of spread out on the different layers. It's a lot harder to create a very consistent loot path, but when compared to other POIs like the Nitrodrome, I think it's still pretty cool. Which, by the way, that's our next location. And I have a quick question, folks. Do you remember when I mentioned that Brawler's Battleground should have been more like a future POI? I feel like making this more like a POI that's introduced next season would have made much more sense. Well, hey, this is it. I would have loved to see Brawler's Battleground take on a more gladiator kind of style. Imagine like this giant Roman Colosseum where you challenge Ares in the center. I think it could have been super cool. But anyways, the Nitrodrome is that realized. It's a big gladiator pit with loot on the outer rim and by some of the stands. While I think the idea of this POI is awesome, it does have issues with clutter and a bit of a confusing design. Even when dropping in now, I still don't know where I'm going sometimes, to be honest. Though, I think the concept of it is still super cool. And if they did redesign it to kind of simplify it a little bit, it could have been another great addition to the map. And honestly, just for the flavor text alone of having like a gladiator ring on the map, it's still cool. However, the same can't be said for our final location, Brutal Beachhead. To be completely honest, this place just suffers from a confusing layout, low loot amounts, and yeah, you ain't winning any rewards for your fucking cluttered, fucking ugly ass, stupid fucking shark face. Fuck you, fuck your combat shotgun, fuck your nitro fist, suck my balls! All this leaves Brutal Beachhead as Season 3's worst location, and in my opinion, it should have been taken back to the drawing board before the final release. But I may not have enjoyed all the map changes. I'll be honest, some of them I just didn't like. The new biome and POIs really hit that summer vibe for the season, however, which, honestly, is the main goal, and what really mattered to me. And speaking of that summer vibe, Epic decided that, well, since a lot of people are going to be playing games thanks to the school year being over, Epic wanted to make it so, well, the season was more approachable to casuals.
What do you mean by that?
And so, to do that, they may or may not have really fucked with... Yeah, folks, we're going to be starting off with the mechanics of Season 3. Trust me, this will make sense in like 5 minutes. While I would normally like to talk about the loot pool first, let's just say the season had some, interesting changes to the loot pool, so we're going to ease you in with the new mechanics first. So what did Season 3 change in terms of mechanics? Well, medallions were changed once again, Wastelander challenges and a new movement mechanic were introduced, the return of healing around the map, and a major rework to weapon mods. So, let's start with medallions once again. The amount had shrunken, now down to only 3. We started off with the Machinist. You could find her at the Redline Rig, and her medallion gave shield regen for up to 75 of your shield. This medallion was great, and honestly just a much better way of doing shield regen than how Season 1 handled their medallions. I prefer this a lot more to allow all the other medallions, to be able to kind of do their own thing. And I like the idea that the mechanic in someone about like repairing shit is able to repair your shield. That's just great, and a nice little nod to their character and how they are in the Fortnite storyline. So, big banger Machinist medallion, big pog, great job Epic going back and reworking a old feature and not just removing it for the rest of the chapter. Anyways, next is Ringmaster Scar, who was found after claiming the ring at the Nitro Drone. Her medallion granted a small boost to your damage, much like Ares.
Shut the fuck up! Know your fucking place, trash!
And infinite ammo. For all weapons, by the way. While this may not have been the most useful for most weapons, like your basic rifle and SMG and shit, there were some weapons that, when combined, you were able to do some serious damage. Infinite rocket launcher really needs to be studied. This shit is scary. But again, overall a great medallion. I love the idea that Epic was taking these past failed medallions and reworking them and giving them some extra bonuses to make them feel a little bit stronger. Make them overall better. But anyways, the last of our medallions introduces the newest mechanic from Wrecked. Nitro.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh yeah!
This would increase your character's movement speed and give you infinite sprints. And if you were running into players or buildings, you would crash into them, knocking players back and dealing damage to both builds and players, usually destroying builds on launch. And you are able to get infinite nitro with this thing if you took down Megalodon at Brutal Beachhead. Why do you have to make one of the best medallions at Brutal Beachhead? What the fuck is wrong with you, Epic? On launch, Nitro was extremely powerful, which was not needed. There was already so much this season that Nitro just added to the pile of crazy shit. But after being balanced in a couple of patches, Nitro was just a very helpful way to move around the map, and something that just was nice. It was nice to have. Once again, after the balancing, this medallion was cool. I liked this medallion after all the balancing that it had. Though, realistically, it wasn't the medallion that got balanced, it was Nitro, but the point still stands. Again, a great medallion. The medallions overall this time around were very, very balanced when compared to, infinite dashes, which literally controlled the meta. Shield regen that literally just turned you into a cracked out cokehead. Yeah, so overall, I do prefer this compared to how Season 1 and 2 handled their medallions. So great job, Wrecked. Big dub, big bonus points, love that. Anyways, something that wasn't as broken was the Wastelander challenges, as they were just easy ways to gain XP and level up fast. Or well, I wouldn't say easy, some of them literally you couldn't touch the floor, or pick up guns. There wasn't much more to add. I know a lot of YouTubers acted like they were this crazy big thing, though I didn't even run into any of them. They didn't affect gameplay in the slightest if you didn't want them to, so they were cool. If they were forced on you though, that would suck. Imagine if you were playing some FNCS type shit and you just can't pick up guns without taking damage just cause the Fortnite gods have cursed you. That would actually be funny as fuck, but thank God they didn't do that. Anyways, Slurp Cacti was added as well, all around the desert, which would respawn infinitely and allowed players who broke them to gain 30 health or shield. It was a nice way to breathe some life into the desert and really make it feel like this biome is abnormal for the Chapter 5 map, as we haven't seen anything like the Slurp Cacti for this entire chapter. Though, I gotta say, this last change is where a lot of the season's main problems kinda were shown from, and I think if we're gonna talk about the reworked weapon mods, I feel like we should jump to... Okay, I'm not gonna lie. The loot pool of Wrecked was fucking crazy. It was not balanced in the slightest. Whether it be the Nitro Fists, which I think anybody who played the season remembers the PTSD players had to go through, when you just got fisted by some guy who just blew through all your builds. Oh yeah! And blasted you away before you even realized what was going on. Or maybe something like the Boom Bolt, where, you know, you're low on HP, you're trying to pop minis, but then this guy, like 200 meters away, has a sniper scope on his fucking Boom Bolt, and he's just shooting your box and dealing like 5 damage to you each time, destroying your box in the process. Which is kinda crazy when you think about it. We also saw the return of weapons like the minigun and combat assault rifle, which I won't lie, if released last season, I would have said, oh, these are lazy, these are boring. But Season 3 made up with these re-editions by adding new weapons as well, that weren't just collabs. Sure, we did see the Fallout weapon, which I believe is called like the Tri-Beam Laser Rifle, which was cool in its own right because I think it was like the only gun that had hit scan this season, which I think is a very interesting idea. But, as well, I want to mention this before going on to talking about the new weapons, the Combat Assault Rifle could be modded, and this thing was absolutely crazy and I love it so much. It's probably my favorite weapon from Chapter 5. Gas up my man, he the GOAT. Bless up the Combat AR. We love the Combat AR. Though, Season 3 as well added new weapons. The Towhook Cannon, Heavy Impact Sniper, they were introduced this season. As well, we saw another collaboration, this time with Marvel. And it didn't erase the entire theme of the season for a third of it. Instead, we just got something even more broken than anything else we've seen this entire season with the Magneto powers. What the fuck? You can deal like 400 damage to cars with it. Though most of these weapons were extremely powerful. And as well, we also saw the Pirates of the Caribbean items, which you could just summon a ship and crash through everything, which again, was incredible. This loot pool was gonna need major trimming to fit in any sort of competitive scene, because keep in mind, Fortnite at its heart is also an esport. So, we haven't even gotten to the worst part, by the way, for what people still consider the most broken weapons in Fortnite history. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get a drum roll, please? I give you the strongest weapons in Fortnite history. Cars.
I fucked your mom, shit lips.
The focal point of Wrecked, and they were annoying before, as people would just get super low and just drive away. But Epic had altered how they functioned. This season had introduced new weapon mods. Though if you remember from the last episode, I talked about, oh, this was the last time we ever saw weapon mods for guns be reworked in any way. And that didn't change. But weapon mods were added for your cars, allowing you to add turrets, grenade launchers, bulletproof tires, cow catchers, etc. You would not imagine. These additions had pretty much added a whole new loot pool to the season, and honestly, it did mods the best way they could have. The mod crates were just scattered all around the island, and once running into them, your car would be equipped with the mod. This is honestly the best way they did mods the entire chapter, and I don't know how they fumbled this hard with like weapon mods. But the problem with these changes is that they were extremely powerful, especially since cars could be affected by nitro. They were just crashing through builds with 99% of their bodies being covered by a car and just laser you with a turret. And I didn't write this in the script, so this is a little tangent, but I also forgot to mention about how there was mythic cars, and they could just recover HP for a good third of the season, and they had nitro infinitely, and they couldn't run out of gas? These things were fucking crazy. These things were annihilating people, and they were extremely broken, and they had these wacky-ass weapons. Trust me, even though a lot of people hated it, I was really happy to see Fortnite begin to regain that wacky charm that I feel like it lost for most of Chapter 5. And I feel like what a lot of Wreck did could have been put into any chapter of Fortnite's history. But once you realize that Fortnite is an esport, and one of the largest at that, you can begin to see how this isn't the most competitive. Though, Epic knew what they were doing. Cars were absolutely fucking busted on launch. As well as the few new weapons, with the fucking infinite ammo medallion, oh my god! The infinite nitro medallion on launch, 75 damage, fuck your box, it's gone. It was crazy. As well, other new mechanics like the Slip Cacti infinitely refilling even in Storm allowed people to just camp in Storm for as long as they fucking wanted. Because they could just sit by a cactus, and I'm pretty sure they respawn like every 10 to 15 seconds, and they gave 30 health. Meaning that in a 2-tick Storm, you were fine. Plus there was that area with just 3 cacti, which you could just kind of keep whacking whenever you needed health. And remember, there was 3 of them lined up all together, so by the time you ran out of your last one, guess what? Oh, the other 2 are already refilled. It was not hard. But I just have to imagine that Epic would save themselves the nightmare and keep everything like these new items like cars and nitro out of competitive modes or extremely nerfed in said competitive modes. Right? And I think it's time to talk about. Alright, I want to keep this part short because I don't like talking about the Fortnite community in my videos because I don't think it's really needed. But I think for Wrecked, it's very important, because the Fortnite community was split. Casuals loved the season for the wacky and fun time it was, while competitive players who played this game for a livelihood and want each fight they entered to be determined more by skill than dumb luck, hated it. It's no surprise, the casual and pro players always had a complicated relationship. They usually hated each other. But I will say, Epic, in terms of, balancing, did a good job at keeping both casuals and pros happy. Specifically thanks to the ranked mode, Epic was usually able to keep most broken or overpowered items out of the ranked loot pool. But for some reason, I don't know who got hit on the head while developing this, Epic let all of the new crazy mechanics and items from Wrecked into ranked in tourneys, which did nothing but make this whole situation worse. I'm never gonna say this was a good idea. This season was great with friends on launch, but as soon as you either hopped into solos or ranked, you're gonna want to chug a bottle of bleach like it's a chug jug. Though you may be wondering, on launch? What do I mean by on launch? Well, Epic didn't just leave pro players out to die, they couldn't let their esports scene just fucking vanish. They're not stupid. Early in the season, Epic would begin to nerf the cars, nitro, and the extremely broken nitro fists. Then add counters like boogie bombs and EMPs back to the loot pool when the nerfs weren't enough. Though these were great additions, they should have been in on launch. Specifically the boogie bombs and the EMPs. As well, the nerfs to the cars were pretty major, and they left the casuals angry, specifically at the pros, for ruining what they saw as Fortnite's best season in a really long time. So of course, the two sides began to go for each other's throats. And yeah, this is not good. Though, even then, the worst part is that the pros still didn't enjoy Season 3 after everything got nerfed. They still saw it as an unskilled and annoying cesspool. Like, this left Epic in a horrible situation that they never should have even tried to, balance. Each side was at each other's throats, and the people who had once loved Wrecked now began to hate the season thanks to their piss-poor balancing act that was the cars and the overall season's theming in competitive. And it's sad because the solution was so simple, and everyone was saying it when they were making videos about Season 3. It was a super good season, but all Epic needed to do was cut out most of the new items from ranked in tournaments. Keep pros happy and let the casuals have their fun for the season. I know that there's been a lot of negative talk about Wrecked specifically in this video, and as I said at the start, I love Wrecked. It's my favorite season this chapter, and honestly, probably a top 10 season just in my personal opinion in all of Fortnite. I'm supposed to be defending it, though I don't think it's fair to only cherry pick the positives. Because I think that, you need to have that balance, you need to have that full perspective if you're really going to give it a look. And I won't lie, from looking at this as a competitive side, I can see why you'd hate it. And I can see from a casual side why you'd love it at first, but then grow to, kind of become a bit saddened by the state that it was left in. But again, I think that I've mentioned all of the important things of Wrecked. So I think it's finally time that I give you my defense for Chapter 5, Season 3. Wrecked. So I just want to start this section by saying that it is all just my opinion, and if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. After all, it's what makes us all unique, and variety is the spice of life. So just please, if you do disagree, comment with how you feel, and I'd love to strike up an actual conversation and, have a decent discussion about this season and chapter as a whole. And please, if you're gonna comment, don't just let it be "you suck, Wrecked was awful," or Season 2 was my favorite, I hate you, go die in a hole. I'd actually like to hear, some reasons why you think that way. And I don't want to belittle anybody. I want to go ahead and actually, have decent discussions. But why don't I start talking, actually about what this is for? So, I think it's safe to say that Wrecked is by far the most creative season of Chapter 5. While I believe Season 2 could have taken this title, there were some issues with giving it that title, man. But this season as a whole feels like something we could have seen from an older Fortnite season. Of course, the cars were kind of crazy on launch.
You're fast enough.
When playing casually, I always had a blast during the early days of the season. No one can take away how fun day one was, right? When you're not playing competitively, this season was just some good old Fortnite fun. And we can't forget about the best mode that's come from the metaverse so far, Reload. I don't need to talk about all the positives of Reload, as it just allows Epic to test all these crazy things in VR, and not lose players, as you can always shift to a much less complicated and cluttered loot pool by playing the fast-paced, smaller version of Fortnite OG. As well, I gotta mention again, the art design began to step away from that boring and lifeless style from the introduction of the desert, and I have to say this is a great thing for me personally. I hated how Fortnite looked, and I'm not really a big graphics guy, but when I literally look at a game, and I think it looks bad, like I don't enjoy looking at it, it makes me want to...
Oh my god! Oh jeez, oh my god!
The season also saved Fortnite from that identity crisis that it was having for a while, which, if I remember correctly, around Chapter 5 Season 1, that was when it was seen, a lot of people started making videos and started talking about Fortnite not really being the same game, and stepping away from what made it unique, and, losing its identity. Which, I'm really happy to say that they didn't fall down the rabbit hole that is, losing your identity. And especially when you consider stuff like the collabs this season were super powerful, they didn't remove or distract from the season's theme, which I think really helps to show that Fortnite wasn't just, a corporate cash cow. Unlike Season 2, they fit right into the loot pool, and it, if anything, it added to the season's theme. And unlike Season 2, they didn't remove the theming for a third of the season. And I don't think Epic has done so well since Chapter 3 Season 1 when it comes to introducing collab items into the loot pool. Obviously, I'm talking about the Spider-Man web shooters.
Spider-Man!
As well, the introduction of the Wanderer, which was a fun little NPC that you couldn't kill, unless if you had gas cans, which, thinking about it in hindsight, it's really funny to think that that's his weakness. But it was a really fun way to hype up the next season, and the live event revealing where Pandora's box wound up after Zeus got all pissy was also awesome to see. This helped to show that the storyline had evolved from its beginning, and instead of the box just being some stupid excuse to go to Season 2, it helped to build the season and the chapter storyline as a whole. As well, I think it's safe to say that Wrecked is where Chapter 5 began to rebuild some kind of semblance of an engaging storyline. Of course, next season, I'm going to talk about it, does an amazing job at this, but I also want to mention something from the previous season, actually. Winterfest. We all remember how bad it was. It felt rushed and forgotten thanks to all the new modes most likely being prioritized, which really sucked, because I always loved Winterfest. I always loved Crackshot's Cabin. It was a personal favorite of mine, so to see Epic really kind of push it under the rug and not really care about it, it really hurt. And honestly, I thought the summer event was gonna meet the same fate when it first released. But it really pulled a 180 in terms of quality. Starting with just 3 basic rewards, which honestly really sucked. Though rank did finally get fixed, which I have to say I'm much appreciated for. But then we got the Cybertruck for free and a bunch of other free rewards.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Just thrown in there for fun. And we ended up getting a full-blown collaboration with Pirates of the Caribbean, which I believe was the first time since Chapter 3 Season 4 that we've seen a POI added mid-season.
Bring me my money.
Sure, it was only around for a limited time, but no matter what, you could tell the devs at Epic really wanted this update to beat the Avatar one. And in my opinion, well shit, they blew it out of the park.
Fuck you!
As I mentioned before, they didn't even abandon the season's theme for a third of it, and they kept adding to it as the collab was going. And that's just awesome. While Rec did have a lot of issues for competitive players, this is the reason why, well these are the reasons why, I think whenever people say Wrecked was the worst season or Wrecked was awful, it isn't true. When compared to something like Primal, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure on Fortnite.gg is ranked the worst season of all time, the issues of Wrecked were solved, for both sides. If casuals didn't like the cars and how crazy they were, guess what? They could go to Reload and play OG Fortnite pretty much. And if pros wanted to play competitively and they didn't like the cars, guess what? They got removed in ranked. Like, the problems of Wrecked were eventually solved. Primal didn't improve for the entire season. It was always very mishandled. I think everyone can agree on that. Poor map, poor loot pool, and poor mechanics. But the same can't be said for Wrecked. Once cars were removed from ranked lobbies and Reload was introduced for the casuals, this season was finally able to embrace what it should have been from the start. Wacky fun for casuals, and a compelling competitive season to watch and play. As someone who personally started getting back into competitive around this time, I have to say it started out really fucking annoying, but when cars got removed and Nitro got balanced and everything overall started to get better, the season was really fun. And I think that's really all I have to say in the defense of Wrecked. I want to go ahead and close out with this though. Do I believe that this season was healthy for Fortnite as a game and for the Fortnite community as a whole?
Did you eat a tree for it?
Epic really did mishandle this season, for pro players specifically, and there's no one else to blame but Epic for all of these flaws and balancing issues. Especially in comp, I need to add, if Epic just removed the cars, casuals could have still had their fun. And they could have kept the cars super powerful, but of course they had to, make it so the competitive players actually could play the game, and they tried to strike that happy ground, but in a season like this, there is no happy ground between casual and competitive. This season was wacky fun. Epic should have realized that and decided to say, okay, we can only put in Nitro and the Boom Bolt, and that's it. We can't put anything else in for competitive this season. And it's just sad to say, but do I think this season was super fun and probably the best of Chapter 5? I think Chapter 5 of Season 3 is incredible. While issues like bullet travel still existed, I almost forgot about them all in Wrecked thanks to how goofy and fun the season was. But, of course, as the season came to a conclusion, we had another mini-event, where it was revealed that next season was going to follow in Chapter 2's footsteps, and, be focused all around Marvel, with Dr. Doom invading the island and preparing to take it for himself and shape it in his image. As Wrecked ended, we entered Chapter 5's final season. Chapter 5 Season 4, Absolute Doom.